Do you know this gentleman? At least we have to start from him, if not Ali. Are you sure that you don't know him? Not any of you? That's surprising. Not sure. Huh? The best guess. Oh, I forgot to bring chocolate. Otherwise, I can offer you interesting prize. Yeah. Are you sure that none of you know this gentleman? Malthus. Do you remember what did he say? Doomsday. Catastrophe. Right? He was an economist, he was a philosopher, and most importantly, he was a priest, a very devout Christian. And then he proposed the idea of the Malthusian trap. Food will not be enough to feed people. So what situation that you can imagine? Not enough food to feed more people. What would be the reactions of the people? They will compete. They will die because of fighting each other or because of not having food. That's what is called the Malthusian trap or Malthusian catastrophe. And then, based on his predictions, someone else coined the term of economics as abysmal science. Not a good title for the economics as abysmal science, because of the origins of that terminology was because of the gloomy predictions of Malthus. But what was the fact? 100 years after Malthus wrote his book about that kind of Malthusian catastrophe, what happened after that? He was wrong. Yeah? The world has more food than the people to feed. So he was wrong, not true. Right? So don't be shy to be wrong. To be wrong in the first place is the good start to be right later on. Yeah? So that's the moral story of this one to begin with, right? So that was the origin. So this is about sustainability, right? This is about sustainability. But the word of sustainability probably was not there at that time. But the essence was about sustainability. Now, fast forward, let's move into 1.5 century left. We move from the late 1700s into the mid 1900s. And then we have the new theory. Yeah? The Malthus ghost returned to the world. We call that one Neo-Malthus. Yeah? Do you know what is different between Neo-Malthus and Malthus? Very interesting difference. Neo-Malthus will preach birth control. And you know what Malthus said about birth control? No. No birth control. If you want to control, you have to refrain yourself. You see the difference? Does it ring you around about the contemporary influence of religion on this kind of issue? Good. I can see that you know what I mean, right? So it was not new, this kind of thing. You can always go back to history to find what happened today, what happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You will find that 100 years ago. Yeah? So never think that something that you see new in this current society, modern society, is really new. Things are repeating itself, right? So and then it was in the mid 1900s, about 1940s, 1950s, and then the next important moment was what is called the Brundtland Report. Yeah? A commission set up by the UN, headed by Mr. Brundtland. Brundtland, Mr. or Mrs., I forgot. former prime minister or president from one of the Scandinavian country. You can do your Google search. And then there was a report by a team led by Brundtland, and then the title of the report was Our Common Future. This is the moment where the phrase of sustainable development was kind of officially defined for the first time. And then 10 years later, you have Kyoto Protocol. You know what Kyoto Protocol is about? This is about a kind of international conventions about commitment to reduce CO2 emissions. And you should know the story of who signed the Kyoto Protocol and what are the reasons for them not signing the Kyoto Protocol, right? That's one of the origins of the climate change. And then you have the 2012 Rio Summit after 20, and then you have another report, The Future We Want. The Future We Want was the solid base of what is called the Sustainable Development Goals, agreed by the United Nations General Assembly in 2015. So tell me if you haven't heard of the phrase of Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. I'm sure that all of you have come across, right? This is the buzzwords. Buzzword in the developing world, in the developed world, everywhere on the planet. But as you will always recognize, when you propose something, and then there will always be the other side of the story. There will always be criticism, skepticism, right? And when you propose something and you have someone or a group of people against, that's absolutely fine. Then where you see the whole debate. Now let me move into what happened after the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. Look at that one. Can you read that one for me?
SDGs should stand for 6 less, should stand for being.
And do you know who wrote that article? William Sterling. After this class, you do your Google search. I don't have to tell you everything. Yeah, and read that one, and then make up your mind. So on the left, you have the dominant narrative, the product of the General Assembly of the United Nations in September 2015, where nearly all head of government or head of states across the globe will meet every year in New York, in the headquarters of United Nations, and then they agreed on something. And then they agreed on what is called the Sustainable Development Goals. That will cover the target, goals, things to achieve applicable for all countries in the world. Rich, poor, half poor, high income, half high, low income, every country is very inclusive. But that gentleman, Professor William Sterling, he worked for 20 years in the World Bank and disillusioned with the global development. He quit, contemplated for a few years, and then he wrote a book. The title of the book was The Elusive Quest for Growth. He was questioning what he did for 20 years for the World Bank. And then a few months or probably a few weeks after the launch of the SDGs by the United Nations, he wrote an article for Foreign Policy magazines. You know, Foreign Policy magazine, probably one of the most influential popular magazines worldwide, published in the US on foreign policy. And then that's the title. The SDGs should stand for senseless, dreamy, and garbled. Senseless. You know what the meaning of senseless, right? Dreamy. You know dreamy. Do you know garbled?
Useless.
What?
Useless. Maybe you're unsure, something like that. Confused.
You do your Google search. In Indonesia, my translations for gabut is gajebo. Okay, and look at the first sentence. Play sports, be in harmony with nature, and end all preventable death. Only the UN would have come up with a document so worthless. So that's where we start, where we end up. And then if you do your Google search, what's sustainability? And then you will type whether sustainability in this world is a reality or a myth, you will find that kind of discussions. So I'm not imposing you one side of the story. My objective now is to introduce you to both sides of the positions. You don't have to take sides, learn both sides, and then make up your mind. Yeah? So that's my first content about the quest for sustainability. Now let's move to the second. What is the, okay. The second one, still about sustainability. Sustainability is a buzzword. It means different to different people, right? You are doing bachelor degree in Indonesia, coming from Pakistan, Sri Lanka. You are just started to build your life as an adult, right? Your understanding of sustainability will be different from my understanding of sustainability for my life, right? Now I gave you two pictures. The first one, I gave you the explanations. An artisanal miner carries a sack of ore at the Shabara artisanal mine near Kolwezi, DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, the country of origin of Professor Andre Rosa. And the picture was taken on the 12th of October 2022, only just 2 years ago. That was the cobalt. You know the functions of cobalt? There will be no smartphone without cobalt, right? Fueling the Industrial Revolutions 5.0, about the smart technology. You can imagine the livelihood of people working, living in that kind of situations. Congo, probably the richest countries in Africa in terms of, or in the world in terms of the natural resource reserve, different kinds of mining. Now I'll give you the second picture. Can you guess where the picture is? I used to visit that beach quite frequently. From Sydney. Bondi Beach, the most popular, the most beautiful beach in Australia, I believe. That's a picture from Bondi Beach. I ask you questions. You see people on the right-hand side, you see people on the left-hand side. Ask the questions. What does sustainability means for people on the right side and people on the left side? You don't have to answer. You just think. That's the world where we live, right? I'm not against sustainability, but I like to take things critically, not just swallow everything. You study not to swallow everything. You study to think about what you learned. When someone stands like this is not someone that you just listen without reserve. Question him, question her. Yeah? That's something that you need to have as a good student. So, sustainability, you can put a big question mark there. big question mark, not to deny or to accept bluntly, to deny bluntly, but something that we need to think, right? So that's the first part of what I have to say. The second part. Okay, this is the takeaway. A propositions or a proposal is not sitting on an empty air. There always be context, any kinds of context, historical, cultural, mindset, everything. So before you make your judgment, you need to understand the context. Yeah? I think I'm giving you a life lessons. Right? Be mindful of the context of everything. So, a proposal or a propositions like sustainability, everything, is not sitting on the empty space. There always be context. So context matters. Then you can have your critical take. So I'll move to the second one. Natural resource and development. What would be your take about sustainability in the context of the link between natural resource and development? I give you two pictures here. One picture and then one news. On the right side, I don't know whether that picture is from Seoul. I believe that one is from Seoul. At somewhere skyline in the capital of South Korea. My point here is with regard to natural resource and development. South Korea is resource poor country. But resource poor for Korea has been a bless. They are encouraged to develop, not relying on natural resources. Yeah? When they finish, Professor Song can correct me if I'm wrong. When they finish the Korean War, I listened this one to a lecture from one of the South Korean professor who visited my office about 25 years ago when I worked in Jakarta. And then I quote this one from his lecture, yeah, more or less. He said that we are a new country coming out from war. We have nothing. No natural resources, no nothing. What we had only people. Now the question is how to develop, relying on the people. And then you know what happened in South Korea after 4 decades. I can tell you what was achieved by South Korea in 4 decades is equivalent with what achieved by Britain in 4 centuries. This is not from me. I quote Professor Ha Jun-chang, probably the most prominent South Korean economist. He was in Cambridge University, now in SOAS. You read Ha Jun-chang book. Yeah? What was achieved by South Korea in just 4 decades was equivalent to what achieved by Great Britain in 400 years. Now, the next question is, we don't know what will happen with China. We don't know. Wait. Yeah, the China history, China miracle was just started, only a few decades, and then we need to wait for a bit longer to make any judgment. Yeah. So on the left, on the right, left. On the left, can you read the title? How dependent is France on Niger's uranium? Niger's. My point here is Niger. You know what is Niger? A country just in the northern part of Nigeria. Nigeria was colonized by the British. Niger was colonized by France. Niger was probably on the bottom 3 of the poorest countries on earth, if you can see. But that country is very rich in uranium. The top supplier of France. nuclear power plant. Do you know how many percent of electricity in France produced by the nuclear power plant? Can you guess how many percent? Give me numbers. Huh? Give me numbers. 80%?
30%.
30?
40%.
40? Okay, 80, 40, 30. 71. The highest country in the world where the proportions of electricity in that country produced from the nuclear power plant. And Niger was the top 3 supplier of uranium to France nuclear power plants. Australia used to have, now Australia has a lot of uranium, but Australia doesn't want to mine the uranium. If you want uranium, you can just buy somewhere else. Okay? You can check Australia. Australia doesn't mine their own uranium. They have everything on their underneath the soil. The Australian country, very rich in natural resources. But they save it. Okay? And the Australian mining company is everywhere, in Latin America, in Africa, in Southeast Asia. Can you name me the top 2 mining multinationals from Australia? BHP is Australian. Right? So, how would you compare resource rich and resource poor? So, resource is not the determinant. You can be rich because of the resources. You can be poor because of the resources. You can be rich without the natural resources. You can be rich with natural resources. So that's something that you need to. So when you understand that one, now I'll skip this one just to show you some data on about France and Niger, right? Now, when it comes to natural resources, you will find this kind of very popular brand of natural resource abundance. And when your natural resource is good for you, everything is all right. No one will question. But when natural resources create misery for the life of the people in certain countries, in fact, in many countries, and then you have what is called the natural resource curse. Have you heard about that one? They are cursed because of having abundant natural resources. And Niger is one of the examples. And many sub-Saharan Africa are examples of where you can easily find natural resource curse. Yeah? Natural resource blessing is not the question. It's easy to understand. But the question is, not the questions. I just want to introduce you to one very important mechanism explaining the resource curse that will make the resource availability, resource abundance in certain countries becoming a curse. This is very much economic term, the Dutch disease. Now I have to be mindful of the computer science student to listen to Dutch disease. Probably the first time for you to hear that. This is the first time for you to, yeah, the disease are coming from Dutch. You know Dutch? Yeah. People living in the Netherlands, you call them Dutch. Yeah. So what kind of disease introduced by the Dutch people? Okay, this is about, they discover oil in the 70s in the North Sea. New discovery of oil. Everyone will be happy. Oh, we have new oil reserve in North Sea and belongs to the Netherlands as a country. Then what happened at the time? In 1977, the Economist magazine produced a report explaining what happened in Netherlands economy as the impact of the oil discovery in the North Sea. What happened to the Netherlands economy because of the oil discovery? Rather than blessed by the discovery of oil, the economy was. Now, how come? Okay, probably one economic student here can explain. Why don't you? Can you try to explain what is the mechanism inside the resource, the Dutch disease? Why the discovery of oil in the Netherlands in 1970s, creating economic downturn in the Dutch economy?
Actually, I'm not from economics, but I think that this have a negative effect on economy when they have the oil production. I don't know mechanism behind that logically.
Mechanism is when you discover oil, your export will increase massively during a short period of time. When your export increase, your currency appreciates. When your currency appreciates, your manufacturing product, your agricultural product, when you want to export, your product becoming more expensive from the foreigner's perspective. And then what happened? The non-oil sector declined. But the non-oil sector is bigger than the oil sector. You have good things about the oil, but you have the negative effect on the non-oil sector. And then the overall, the economy, that's the Dutch disease. And there are few more other mechanisms to explain how the natural resource create economic downturn rather than the flourishes of the economy. So this is my last one. So you start questioning now the link between natural resource and development. And then you put the question of the quest for sustainability. Now, nothing is easy. Nothing is easy in the sense that probably you are happy, you are blessed from the natural resource, but that can be a curse. Probably you are sad that your country is poor of the natural resources. How can we develop? Other countries have oil. Those countries that have diamond, those countries that have gold, and then your country has nothing. Then you feel sad. But wait a second. You can find good and bad story on the case of resource abundance or resource scarce country. And then when you have resources, and then people start questioning how you do things sustainably. When you don't have things, the same question comes. How do you think sustainably? Right? So this is my 3 dots pointing. When you are thinking of the quest for sustainability, when you're thinking of the link between natural resource and development, this is actually the struggle of everyone. Korea struggle in their own way. They succeed. Yeah? African countries, they have struggled in their own way. Indonesia, they have struggled their own way. And each and every struggle are unique. Yeah? So that's one thing. And then there is no easy route. You can't copy and paste. Yeah? You can't ask ChatGPT. You can't. That's my own reflections on reading on this. And the last one. This is about our forthcoming book about structural transformations in the low-income countries in Asia and Asia Pacific and Africa. And then basically this kind of thing is really depend on the past dependence of each and everyone, and then geopolitics will play very important. And then this will create the first no easy road, and then that will be the struggle of each and every. Okay, I'll stop there. I'll be happy to answer your questions or to listen to your comments. Thank you, Pak Farobi. You're supposed to be the chair of the sessions, and then probably you can play the role. Thank you.
Okay, let us give applause first. Okay, it's a very interesting presentation. So, any question from? Okay, first. Then other. Okay. Who else? Okay, first. Okay.
First of all, greeting Mr. Zulfan. So my name is Yusuf Sedzal Febrianto. I am the Resource and Economic Environmental student of this department. So you've discussed the topic about sustainability, right? And also the previous slide, there was a material that discussing about Kyoto Protocol. I hope my question is still online of the today's lecture. So, coincidentally, I am currently working on a paper discussing ideas into improving carbon market for Indonesia. As Mr. Zupan knows, carbon trading is one of the situations to have a win-win situation between environmental and economics. However, I have a problem where there are only a few sources of references regarding to countries' attitude towards the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement is the continuity of the Kyoto Protocol, which changes between from countries' commitment to countries' contribution. So, what I want to ask is, how is your view on Indonesia's commitment to a sustainable green economy such as carbon trading, and how is Indonesia responding to carbon trading? Thank you.
This is difficult questions, and if I can be very honest, I don't know the detail of the carbon markets, but I will take on your key points there. The shift from country commitments to country contributions. If you understand language, I'm asking you, what does it mean? Initially, the world was set up, it was commitment, and no one commits. The most powerful one don't want to commit. You know why they don't commit to Kyoto Protocol? Signing Kyoto Protocol will just tie their hands. That will cost our economy. Any president who will sign the Kyoto Protocol and ask to win the elections, no one will vote for the president who will put down the economy. People want the president who will grow the economy, not putting down the economy. Yeah, you do your Google search. What is the Chinese positions on Kyoto Protocol and the US positions on Kyoto Protocol? Yeah, they can't get the commitment. That's desperate, right? You can't get everyone commitment, and then you are begging, please contribute. From that one, you understand now the context, right? That's the point of my what I said to you. When you see something, you have to see things critically and then understand the context. From that one, this is a big issue, very problematic. Why shifting from commitment to contributions? It means that a failure. It's failure. No one commits. And in the global governance, I can tell you, there is no law enforcement. If you don't sign Kyoto Protocol, who will punish you? Country is suffering. Right? If the Chinese doesn't want to contribute to Kyoto Protocol, doesn't want to contribute, doesn't want to commit, who can punish? The US. Right? Now, put that kind of questions. Even then, from commitment to contributions, this is a failure. If you understand what I mean. Okay, I think that should be enough.
Okay. Okay, anyone? Maybe from online, from Zoom? Yeah, they cannot sign the protocol. Okay, yes, very interesting. Maybe we can ask to the one about why some country rich in the natural resource is poor than the country with the limited resource, like Singapore, Japan, or anything. Very interesting because this is very related for today.
I think that's enough to hear you, but yeah. They're thinking now, I can see it.
have time 15 minutes. Okay. Or maybe you can share a question, share from your country. Okay.
Pakistan.
Pakistan, how about in Pakistan? Natural resource management in Pakistan?
Yeah, there is natural resources management in Pakistan, but not on the high level, like in the European countries, because we are also in Asian countries, South Asia countries. Pakistan is South Asian country, but we are also developing country. So we have the natural resource management, but not on that level. Like in,
Same as movies.
yeah, same.
It's conventional.
Yeah.
Hello. Can anybody hear me? Can I say something?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
All right. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Aisha. I'm from Pakistan as well, and I am participating online. Right. So I would like to add something to this. Right. Hello, everybody. So good to see you all together. Okay, so I would just wanted to say that we do have a lot of abundant natural resources over here, but sorry, I don't know the name, but as our fellow mentioned earlier, that there is not proper management. A lot of that goes to political reasons as well, but political and geographical reasons. Okay, so that is why we are not able to have a good management, because all the governments that come, all the people that come, they are least interested in this. And like you said, sir, as you mentioned earlier, that it is something that is not on a priority list. Like the US or the China or the other countries, everybody wants to focus on their votings or their economy or increasing their numbers that affect them directly, but not what is happening actually to the natural resources or the communities living within. I think that's all I wanted to say.
I think this is a very good point. Let me tell you something about this is about the global politics. You know that in the international relations, there is a very well-known theory called the realist theory in international relations. And then the theory says this: at the global level, each and every country is always in the state of war. And then each of them will always pursue their national interests on everything, including the scramble for natural resources. Okay? That's the common theory in the international relations. So if you are foolish in your international diplomacy, you'll be cheated by someone. Yeah? I can tell you a lot of stories. Okay? That's the reality. So now you have to really compare what is being discussed at the global diplomacy and then what is happening in the real politics. Don't be too naive. I think that's my comment,
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sir, thank you. Well, is there anyone? Yeah?
Thank you
Your
for
name and your resource.
thank you for your amazing presentation. This is Aditya Surya, and I've also worked with Yusuf from environment. I want to ask that earlier you mentioned that in the Dutch thesis, when the export increase very high, the currency will increase also, and the non-Arab will decrease. So in Indonesia, how is it before I think like for this is a good is a good thing. Is there any certain level for export not become a curse?
Okay. In Indonesia, if you are thinking of, you can see, you can easily see the resource cost case in many of the African countries like Niger, Nigeria. The term of resource curse was only invented in the early 90s, not before. And then the first statistical evidence of the resource curse was conducted by Jeffrey Sachs in 1995. And then a lot of discussions about how resource-rich country becoming poor, struggling with their development progress. And then start questions about Indonesia. Indonesia was also rich in natural resources. There was oil boom in Indonesia in 1970s. The second oil boom in the 1980s. But I can tell you that the consensus based on research, Indonesia is one of the few countries in the developing world who succeed in avoiding the resource curse. So you have to be very happy to listen to the news. Well founded in the literature. And there are reasons for that. Macroeconomic management, political stability, the right investment, something like that. When you succeed, you can easily find the explanations. When you fail, very difficult to find the explanation. So when you ask about Indonesia, Indonesia has been regarded as a country that was safe from the natural resource curse. But it was in the 80s, in the 90s. But research will not stop from that. Now people start questioning. Yes, Indonesia as a country succeeded in avoiding the resource curse. Fine, at the macro level. Now the next question is, what about at the regional level? Not every province in Indonesia is rich in natural resources. Only few provinces which are rich in natural resources. And then you can ask the next questions. What happened to those provinces? Do they suffer from provincial resource curse? Yeah, we are doing that kind of study now. So probably we can produce something if not by the end of this year or probably. So that's how we keep questioning things. Yes, Indonesia was safe from the resource curse in the 90s, 1980s. But the next question is, now Indonesia has been decentralized. Each and every district, provinces, they manage their own affairs to some degree. They manage their own financial management resources. Then the question is how good they are in managing their natural resource revenue. And then a hypothesis can be said, is there any regional resource curse in Indonesia? I can show you one study has said that, yes. So resource curse was not there in Indonesia at national level in the 80s, in the 90s. But after Indonesia decentralized, and then that study conclude that, yes, they show the phenomena of regional resource scarcity. Okay, so that will be, if you are studying natural resource and environmental economics, is something that you can and you should do. Macro take on natural resource and development. Yeah, you are trained to be. You should be trained also to be a macro person. That would be just my. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, but there is shifting from centralized to decentralized. But in decentralized in Indonesia, so the local government has their own regulation. So they it depend on them how to manage the resource. Yeah, but now we have, actually now we have, was it pembagian, divided between, central and local government about what kind of sector that in the central government they can, manage, and how about in the local government. Thing in the central government, the local government cannot manage in fishery, mining, and plantation, big business. They managed by the central government. So we are, because maybe the government sees, they give, oh, this is, the impact of the managing of the natural resource is very different when the central government has the regulator, and then after the decentralized in Indonesia. Okay, we have any question? Yeah. Okay. If there's no any question, okay, we can go to the next chairperson. Then we can give applause again to you want. Okay, for the decision next, we have from UKL, Malaysia, Technology. Okay, we will present about life cycle assessment, agricultural, its product and process. Please.
Okay, I need your cooperation. So a little bit more shifting from what from to find yes, you guys need to shift a little bit in order to understand what he has said. So basically my field is going to take you a little bit to not backwards, a little bit you have to take a little bit a little step backwards, because what I'm going to share with you today is a method that is usually used in order to decide. It is a system as method in order for you to decide the environmental impacts of your activities or processes. I'll give you more examples so that you can easily understand what I'm trying to say. Then we'll start off with one scenario so that I can bring you together with me along with the lecture. Because we are talking about sugar from sugarcane. Okay, so let's say this is supposed to be a question for you guys to answer, but to make it quick, so I'm going to give you the answer. Okay, let's say we are actually together cultivating sugar cane in order to produce sugar. So the input that we're gonna have is basically of course sugar cane, the transportation in order to bring the sugar cane from plant A to plant B, and also water in order to water the plant, right? And then the output, we assume that it's going to be the addition from the transportation in the form of sulfur oxide, sulfur, and also the landfill for the waste produced by the sugar cane, also wastewater that is produced after we use the water. Okay, and then the question that comes from this activity is that how are you going to determine the impacts, the environmental impacts of manufacturing sugar from sugarcane? Okay, and then out of all the impacts that can come out from the activity, what is the most significant? Okay, we can just easily tebak. You Indonesians use tebak, right? So I learned this from my previous lecture in Unpad. So they taught me tebak is guess, right? So you can easily just guess. Oh, it could be the environmental impacts could be maybe water pollution, or maybe noise pollution from transportation, or it may be air pollution from also transportation. And also, in order to identify the most significant, you can also again tebak. It could be the water pollution. Okay, and then next question, that is just the typical way of us identifying environmental impacts. The second question is, you want to know what are from the inputs that have been listed down, the inputs and outputs, which one of the inputs and outputs that you want to focus on in order to reduce the environmental impacts. Okay, these are the first scenario that I want to bring you so that you can together go through the lecture. Second scenario is, okay, let's say instead of you guessing or tebak the answer for these questions, that what I'm going to teach you today or share with you today would be the method to systematically identify the environmental impacts of your activities. Okay, so you can guess whatever you want, but there is actually a standardized, internationally recognized method for you to identify the environmental impacts of your activities. Okay, so we've discussed about climate change, we've discussed about biogas, bio-waste, but the question is that really the problem of your activities? Is that really the problem of your processes? Okay, so I want to share with you the systematic way to identify the actual environmental problems by using a more standardized method. Okay, let's say if we were to use the standardized method in order to answer these questions, the answer will be something like this one. Okay. If we had the resources to purchase the software in order to produce the results to answer these questions, we are going to get this kind of answer, but it can still be done manually, so long as you understand the concept. So the concept is what I'm going to introduce to you today in the lecture. So to answer the question, the first question, what is the most significant environmental impacts from producing sugar from sugarcane? From the list of input and output, we have identified. Okay, and once we assume that we have gone through all the systematic ways, the scientific way of identifying the environmental impacts. So this is the results. So we might thought that environmental the problem would be water pollution, like what we mentioned earlier. But actually, when we produce sugar by using sugar cane, the most significant environmental problem caused by the activity is actually land use. So if you were to improve the sustainability of producing sugar from sugar cane, you have to focus on land use. Next, you have to focus on whatever contributing to respiratory organics as an impact. So I know most of the terms would be very alien, or maybe you might see these terms the first time ever in this class. But unfortunately, it's something that I think it's not unfortunate. I think it's fortunate for you guys being in an economy background, in a forestry background. You guys are going to be introduced to something new, additionally on top of what you are learning right now. Okay, so you can simply Google up the content, because I can go one by one, but I don't have that luxury of time. So this would be the range of impacts that you will assess your input and output against to see which one of these impacts is the most which one of these impacts is the most significant in regards to producing sugar from sugarcane. All right. And next, okay, based on this result, we know that other than first we want to tackle land use. If you want to improve the sustainability of your sugar from sugarcane, first you want to tackle your land use issue. Next, you want to tackle your fossil fuel issue. Okay. Which material that you want to tackle? It depends on. If we come back to the legend over here, that the green one is actually the sugarcane. So producing sugar from sugarcane is so-called environmental friendly in the sense that it's natural, but somehow the sugarcane plantation itself contributing a lot of land use. Okay, so you want to improve your land use in terms of producing or cultivating sugarcane, and also you want to improve your fossil fuel consumption. Because obviously, when you put based on the results, okay, when you produce sugar from sugarcane, it is consuming fossil fuel, and it is one of the most significant impacts in producing sugar from sugarcane. So now I hope you can see by now that this method can give you a more systematic way to improve the sustainability of your work. Okay, we mentioned, like, for example, global greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change, right? So most probably, if we don't have this method, we want to directly handle greenhouse gases. But somehow, by having this method, we know that greenhouse gases is not our main problem. So we have been tackling a wrong problem. You get what I'm trying to say right now, by this point? Okay, so because you are familiar with greenhouse gases, so you think that producing sugar from sugarcane, the most significant impact in producing sugar from sugarcane is the greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change, but not exactly. Okay, by assessing the inputs and outputs, you now know that greenhouse gases is not only the culprit, or it's not always the culprit in manufacturing products. Okay, it could be, for this particular case, it is actually land use. If you want to improve the sustainability, improve the land use, next the fossil fuel, and next maybe whatever contributing to respiratory organics, carcinogens, and last but not least, the rest of other data that you get here. Okay, moving on to the next scenario. Again, just to give you some idea, this is another graph that we are going to get by using the method that I'm going to share with you. Okay, this one is the data, the results have been normalized so that you can see you can compare the results by one another. But for this one, you are going to be provided with the results which contribute the most to the environment. Which input contribute the most to the environment? You will see the list of inputs and outputs over here, and you will see, for example, if we want to cater earlier, obviously, for example, we want to get the climate change. Like, if you still want to tackle climate change, particularly to produce sugar from sugarcane, you want to tackle the one contributing the most, which is the plantation itself. Because obviously, for climate change, the input that is contributing the most to greenhouse gases is sugarcane. Next would be the landfill, the landfill that it used to dispose the biodegradable waste. So you will get the sequence on how you would want to tackle your environmental issues in a more systematic manner. Okay. This is another scenario. Okay, you have two plots of land. You want to plant either banana or barley grains. Okay, so let's assume the inputs of these two crops are similar. The inputs are still sugarcane, transportation, and water, and as the following. So the question is, if you want to support the greenhouse, support the sustainable development goals, and you want to be sustainable, you want to produce, cultivate crops that has the least impact to the environment, right? If you want to support sustainability. And we don't want to plant crops that is degrading to the environment. So how are we to compare? We can only talk about, but that is not systematic. We can always tackle, it's not systematic. So what we can do is by using this method called life cycle analysis to provide you with a result, a more systematic result, like this one. Okay, the method will give you the results of comparing the impacts of producing this, of cultivating these two crops. Okay, so obviously, if we were, since we all are familiar with climate change, so we can see if we were to compare between banana and planting barley, which one is more contributing to climate change? It's going to be over here. See, the barley, right? Barley is contributing more to climate change when compared to banana. Okay, this is like the database from the software. Okay, but we can always do it manually. But as like what I'm trying to focus here, the systematic way to compare or to produce a result for you to decide. So you want to decide either to cultivate banana or barley grain in terms of the best in sustainability. You wouldn't want to plant banana. You want to plant, you would want to plant banana because obviously barley grain is producing, is contributing more towards climate change when compared to banana. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's go to another impact. For example, in terms of ozone layer. Okay, when compared to banana and barley grains, which one would you want to plant if you want to protect ozone layer?
Barley.
Barley, yes, because barley contributes to lesser ozone layer depletion if compared to banana. So this is how you decide. Okay, so now you know there's a systematic way to decide. Previously the impacts that you want to focus, now the crops that you want to plant, so that you are still supporting sustainability for your country. So this one, how about this one? Being compared to banana and barley, which one you would want to plant in terms of the minimum land use?
Banana.
Minimum land use. In this, for this method, negative is the best. It's not the typical graph that we always get from experimental analysis, but for this particular method, negative is the best. So, which one we want to produce? We want to cultivate?
Barley.
Barley or banana?
Barley.
Barley. Because as we can see, systematically it shows that that barley contributes much lesser impact to land use when compared to banana. Okay, so I go directly to the results of the method so that you can see what you are trying to achieve by using this method. Okay, before all this conceptual information regarding the method. Okay, moving on. Module 1. I'm going to focus, I'm going to introduce to you the concept of life cycle analysis, and this is a very trending thing now for all fields, economies, forestry, aerospace. So life cycle analysis is everywhere. You can Google, and it's applied almost everywhere in every field now in the world. So I'm going to introduce to you, maybe later on, as your homework, you would want to do some research more of life cycle analysis, because you might want to need this in your work. You can add this into as one of the subtopic of what you are working on right now, because it's very interesting and it's very trending. Okay, so the concept, the application, and users, and I'm going to give you some idea of the relationship between product life cycle and the environmental impacts, and also demonstrate the use of the inventory data to improve the sustainability of your work. Okay, by using life cycle analysis interchangeably, it is also called life cycle assessment. So if you can compare between two product or processes, like the one we've seen with banana and barley today, and then you will be guided on what process need to be improved, and also what material that you can improve, okay, by using a systematic method. And then you will, by using LCA, you can analyze the significant level of the impact, and of course the overall environmental impacts of your activities, and eventually the continual improvement areas. Okay, where is the result of going to be applied? Okay, SDG, just now Prof. Sukhai mentioned SDG. You are going to, the results of LCA can be applied here. Okay, I can again due to time constraint, I cannot give you the instruction in detail how LCA can help you with SDG, but trust me, it can, it could, it would. Okay, so the results of classical analysis can help you in order to direct your work towards supporting SDG. The ESG, okay, please get this one jot down so that you can Google up all these terms later because it's very trendy and trending. Okay, trendy. So you have ESG, environmental, social, corporate, and governance. And we have LCA to help you in terms of design for environment. And for ISO 2001 version 2015, this is also very important because one of the most significant element in ISO 2001 is for you to identify the aspect and effect evaluation, and it is not going to be valid except you apply the life cycle concept in the aspect and effect evaluation for ISO 2001-2015. Okay, and then for EPD, environmental product declaration, it is very well known in the Europe. Maybe if you would like to go abroad, not only for EPD, for all of the knowledge. If you are interested to work abroad, it's better for you to get yourself knowledgeable of all these terms. And for environmental footprint, you guys might have heard about carbon footprint, water footprint, energy footprint, any material footprint, nutrient flows. So you can use this method to identify, to execute or to implement your environmental footprint. And also material flow analysis. Something like environmental footprint as well. And another one that I forgot to mention is life cycle costing analysis, LCCA. Okay, especially for you economists, I think LCCA is one of the things that you would want to look into more in more detail. Okay, I'm going to go very quickly on this one. So there are a lot of definitions that you can Google, but somehow the most standard one is the one that you can find from its own ISO, which is ISO 14040 and 14044, particularly for life cycle assessment. So this is the one in the standard, but somehow when you have started to do your own LCA work, you can easily whip out your own definition, like what I've done with my colleague. So this one is from this project, so it has its own significant, substantial LCA definition to suit their projects. So I have my friend and I, we have our own definition of LCA of the projects that we have. So this one is our definition of LCA for our project on this one. This is another project. This one, the paper has just been released a few days back, and this is how we define LCA. Okay, this one is the collaboration that I have done with one of the universities here in Indonesia.
Brawijaya.
Institute Technology Kalimantan. Yes. So they were doing LCA on tofu manufacturing. So this is how we define LCA. Okay, so this is a framework. Okay, you can always Google up this information. It's there. It's just that I'm going to guide you what are the information that you need in order to do LCA. So this is the framework that you have to go through. So when you want to conduct LCA to come up with the results that I've given you earlier, so this is what you have to go through. Okay. So first you have to do goal as a definition. You have to do inventory analysis, assessment, and interpretation. Okay. So this is so you have to do all this to come up with all those graphs that I showed to you earlier. Okay. Moving on. So this is the standards for us, the ISO that we formulations that we have been referring to, 1440 and 1444. This is the life cycle concept. So whenever you want to do life cycle analysis, usually whatever product that is manufactured, this is the most general process flow of the product. It could be aeroplane, it could be shoes, it could be bottles. So this is the general flow of the product. And what you need to do is you have to identify what are being consumed and what are being released, including, other than the main products. Okay, so now knowing LCA a little better, so you should know that whatever produced is no longer the main product, but also the emission from the processes, including the waste, emission to water, emission to soil, emission to as solid waste. So including that is considered as the product of the processes, not only the main product. Okay. So this is another way how the life cycle concept is being illustrated. Okay, this one is in a little bit more interesting manner. The extraction, processing, So until disposal stage, so the concept is about you identifying the process flow and determine the consumption and the release from the processes. So for circular economics, it's very common as well for economists now. Circular economics is very common. It's being frequently discussed on how we want nothing released to the environment, but instead being taken back into the processes as the raw material to produce the same product or a different product. Okay. This is another concept just to show you the actual how the concept are being applied into the actual processes, starting from production, starting from the raw material extraction until the product is produced. But before that, I would like to highlight that in SA, it is very common for you to hear the word cradle to grave. Have you heard cradle to grave before? Anywhere in the news? So it's also very common. So cradle to sorry. So movie, in a movie, yes, we can. Yeah, that's one there as well. So we have cradle to grave. If we were to cater all the consumption and the release from the raw material extraction until the end of the product, and we have gate to gate. If we were to cater only the manufacturing processes, and we have also cradle to cradle if we were to cater the consumption from the beginning until it is being reused back into the system. Okay, so these are the scopes that usually being used in LCA, and you have to decide if you want to LCA in the beginning of the project. So the circular economics is very important for you to know. Also, again, it is worthwhile for you to include this chapter in whatever work that you do for extra marks. Trust me, your lecturers gonna love it. Okay, so this is the actual application of the concept, starting from raw material extraction until the production, the completed product being released. So these are the consumption of this particular process, and the arrow coming out of the processes would be all the output from the activities of the process. So arrows coming in would be all the input, all the consumption, material consumption. So this is another example of the concept, of the actual concept of LCA being applied into. So this is a comparison of producing ethylene production from two types of crops, corn and also cassava. So you have to identify your LCA should be from what are the scope? What is the scope of your LCA? Let's say from raw material extraction until the product itself, which is cradle to gate. And you have to identify all the consumption, all the inputs that consumed into the processes, and also what is released from the processes. Okay, but this one is a comparison between producing. We want to know the environmental impacts. Which one is more sustainable, environmentally sustainable to produce ethylene production, either from corn production or cassava production. Okay. All right. So the results of LCA help you to compare to pack material selection. Well, this one I've already gone through earlier, right? Okay, so this is for example one. This is the example of how LCA can help you. This one I said that LCA can help you to compare product of processes. So this is an example of results of how LCA can help you to compare your products and process. Okay, so you want to compare this one is particular to the GHG emission of the product. So the waste bread based succinic acid, we compare to corn based, sorghum based, and fossil based to produce succinic acid. So between all these four materials, which one produce the highest greenhouse gases? Fossil based succinic acid. So we want to avoid producing succinic acid by using fossil fuel. Okay, if we want to choose between all these materials to produce succinic acid, we want to choose probably between corn based and sorghum based because it releases the minimum or the least GHG to the environment. So there's no more tebak-tebak for you once you learn LCA. Okay, all right. So this one is another example that I have shown. This is the inventory of corn and cassava based ethylene production. So you have to have all these inputs and outputs in order to decide which one between these two biomass and these two feedstock that you want to use to produce ethylene. Okay, secondly, this is another example of how LCA can help you to compare. So this one is comparing the production of biochar from activated carbon, biochar to produce activated carbon from woody biomass, either biochar or coal. Okay, so you want to produce activated carbon. So which one would you want to use, biochar or coal? So you do this analysis so that you can go directly to the if your aim is towards sustainability, you want to choose the material with the minimum impact to the environment. Okay, this is another example of comparison that you can obtain when you conduct LCA. So this one is the result of comparing the sustainability between the best traditional best bag against the biodegradable plastic bag. Okay, so you can use this information in order to decide to remain with the biodegradable bag or to remain with the traditional best bag, or you want to proceed with the biodegradable plastic bag. This one is another example of how LCA result can help you in terms of determining the inputs that you want to improve. In the case of corn tortilla production, this one is in producing lubricant oil bottle. So again, the process flows, the scope are identified, the inputs and outputs have been analyzed, and from here you can obtain the results of the sustainability of your lubricant oil bottle. And this one is another example in conducting life cycle assessment for rice production and residue management to determine the processes that you can improve to enhance the sustainability of the rice production. This one is another example of how LCA can help you to identify the process that you can improve, and also eventually the input that you can try to modify, again to improve the sustainability of your process. Despite you are actually producing recycled paper production, which is kind of novel, but of course, even though you are producing recycled paper, there are still environmental impacts that cannot be neglected, that you have to continually improve to ensure that it is really environmentally friendly paper. So another example of the results can help you to identify which one of the processes that you want to focus on. So this is the example of cocoa production. So if you want to improve the processes, you want to do the analysis, you want to do the LCA analysis, so that you won't just go directly, I want to improve transportation. When the truth is that transportation is your piece of the problem. Can you see? Only a little mark over here on transportation impacting the environment. Okay, so you want to focus on your cocoa production, because as you can see, the results are obvious that the production itself is actually contributing to the most of the environmental impacts listed down here. Okay, this is another example of producing bioethanol, on how each one is being compared by processes, which one of these processes are contributing the most to the environment. So if we want to improve the sustainability, we would want to focus on the most problematic process that we identified from the graph, from the results. Okay, another example here, producing mozzarella. So we can use these results to help you identify what are the materials that you would want to improve the sustainability. So again, another example here. So these are the results that you can get by implementing life cycle analysis. This one is producing greenhouse cucumber. This one is greenhouse cucumber production. So these are the impacts. So if we want to improve the sustainability of the cucumber production in a greenhouse, so you should try to identify what are the impacts that you can minimize and focus on the method contributing to the impacts. Another example over here, identifying the most significant impact of corn tortilla production. Obviously, for corn tortilla production, terrestrial acidification is the most significant impact. So if you want to improve the sustainability of corn tortilla production, you want to focus first these impacts, and then the PMF and also the MET. I kind of what MET is. Okay, so you want to go by sequence based on the quantity or the value. Okay, this should not be the last slide actually, but I am really in short of time. So I guess there are actually 3 modules I would like to cover if this was a workshop, probably. But since this is, I cannot do that because of the time constraint. So I guess this is another thing that you have to also know or be familiarized with. Okay, please Google up the function of all these ISO in order to improve the sustainability. Okay, and this is especially good for you based on your background. Okay, so if you want to go for a life cycle assessment like what we have discussed now, it is 40, 44. Okay, if you found any 41, 42, 43, those are no longer valid. Okay, please refer only 40 and 44. Okay, and we have 46 for water footprint. Okay, these are all the standards, I mean the guidelines. The steps that you should follow in order to get the results that I have shown to you earlier. Okay, it's not simply put in the inventory. There are ways for you to do. I mean, when you want to collect the data, all these values that you have seen that from my example, right? So there's actually ways to do it by referring to the standard. Okay, you cannot just simply do it. There are standards to do it. So where you can get the standard to do the inventory, it is from this standard. Okay, if you want to water footprint, the method is in this standard. Okay, when you are in an industry and an auditor came and asked you how you do your water footprint, particularly for example, the ISO 14001/2015 certification, and you say you don't have a standard to follow, that you're not following any standard, most probably your results will not be valid. So you have to mention whatever method that you use to collect data, it must be based on any of these standards, particularly for sustainability or environmental conservation. Alright, so for environmental labels, we have this standard carbon footprint 1467. So generally, everything starting with 14 is related to the environment. Okay, so we have greenhouse gases, part 1, 2, 3, and then don't be alarmed that even banks now are going for carbon counting. Okay, I've been approached by one of the banks in Malaysia asking us to do the carbon counting for them. Okay, and the customers of the banks asking us to do the carbon counting for them because they need to report to their banks. Okay, so 1480 for greenhouse gas management. So I think most of you will be working in the manufacturing industries, if not in governmental sectors. Still, sometimes governmental sectors will be enforcing this information onto the customers. Okay, so onto the industry. So for what else? For posting, we have environmental management system. To get yourself certified with environmental certification, so this should be the standards that you have to follow. And of course, there are more that they are still developing. For example, carbon neutrality, circular economy. This is much interested to you. On put 74 for the normalization, rating, interpretation method, and like I believe the 1497 for greenhouse reporting. Okay, so I guess I know that everything will not be, you'll not be able to cram everything in your head at a particular moment. So there's a lot more. I hope, we're supposed to have some kind of a discussion with your lecturers, I suppose, on Friday. So I guess maybe after the discussion, your lecturers will discuss the contents with you guys during your sessions with your lecturers. Okay, but trust me, the contents that you've learned today is not going to be a waste of time. But it's Google it up, and then again, try to insert some of the contents in your work, in whatever work that you are doing. Your lecturers going to love it. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, if we compare between presentation from Yusufan with this, what is your resume or conclusion?
It's more complex.
More complex, yeah. Previous we discussed about the macro from the resource management, but now we discuss about life cycle assessment. So in this topic, we should know about the process from the downstream to mainstream. If we know about the process, it's easy. But the most important is when we analyze about the LCA, we should make an analysis based on the ISO 1414. Okay, is there any question for today? Is this
Just
the
one question.
Just one question.
One short question, that's it. Because it has another meeting in Hotel Mira in Bogor City. Very, very busy.
Okay.
Just arrived from Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
There's so many things.
Again, thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Rivida from IPB University. I want to ask about life cycle assessment, especially in circular economy flow.
Okay.
Yes. The point of a circular economy is when can one of these ways be utilized, or it must be always that can be utilized without any remains or residue. So this is my question. Thank you.
Yes, the reason why we want to apply LCA in circular economies is that so that we can identify from each of the process, we can identify the waste of each and every process without no process left out. Because LCA will give us a systematic method that reduce the risk of any material being left out, including the waste released from the process. Or else, if we don't have LCA, we might again tebak that this process is releasing a certain waste and miss out another process is actually releasing waste that it may be even more significant when compared to the process that you guess. So it is LCA will give you a systematic way and reduce the risk of missing out any important information for you to decide, particularly for circular economies. Yeah.
So they are similar, right, between the basic is circular economy from the knowledge of the concept of the life cycle assessment. Okay, thank you, Dr. Hadia. We can give applause again. Please welcome.
Again, all right. Thank you so much, Pak Farobi. Thank you so much, Dr. Hairul, for the presentation. And okay, guys. So Alhamdulillah, yeah, today is very long day, and we just complete our mission today. Okay, so tomorrow, the online students. Okay, online students.